Welcome to Love Where You Live, a space dedicated to exploring what it truly means to build a life you love, starting with the spaces we inhabit. I'm your host, Alyssa Celotto. As a real estate agent and former dietitian and wellness coach, I look at home as so much more than just a physical address. It's the foundation for our daily lives, where our physical environments, our communities, and our overall well-being converge. Whether you're navigating a major life transition, creating a physical sanctuary within your four walls, or looking for ways to bring more alignment into your day-to-day, you are in the right place. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of Love Where You Live. I'm your host, Alyssa Celotto, or if you prefer more Italian pronunciation, go ahead and say Celotto. Side note, my last name is my married name, and so it's taken me a little while to embrace how I'm going to say it, because in Italian it should be Celotto, but I have settled on the American style. So, Alyssa Celotto it is. Well. Here we are at episode 1, and I am so grateful for you to be joining me here as we stand at the very beginning of a whole new adventure. This new adventure of exploring a concept I'm calling Love Where You Live. And what I want to talk about on this very first episode is how we got here and what this show is all about, what you can expect to hear on this show as we go forward throughout this first season, and God willing, more seasons to follow. I am pretty nervous. And I think it helps for me to express my nervousness, because going back to when this idea first came to me, like many great ideas, I'm sure you could probably relate, came to me while I was taking a shower. And it sounded so awesome to me. It just sounded like the absolute right thing to do. But I'll be honest, I get that pretty often. I get some very big and exciting ideas, and I have acted on some of those big and exciting ideas, only to experience their, I suppose, falling flat, if you will, or just not coming to the greatest vision that I had for them initially. And so I think one of the first things that I did when I got this big idea, because like I said, it really excited me. It felt like the right thing. I texted one of my friends about the idea because at this point, I really didn't want to dive into something entirely all on my own and tell myself, yeah, this is it. This is the right thing. I'm going to do this. This time, I wanted to have a witness. I wanted to share my idea with someone who I knew would maybe ask me some questions, maybe hold me accountable, would be supportive, or at least help me arrive to a point where I could make the decision whether or not to say yes or no. So, as you would guess, she cheered me on, definitely cheered me on. And for me, that was honestly step 1. My step 2 was then to share it with more people, more or less on social media, right? But I didn't do that right away. I actually sat with this big idea for a while. I let it marinate for a bit. I waited to see if it was going to continue to excite me or if it was going to continue to sit in my brain and inspire me. And it just wouldn't go away. It wouldn't go away. And so then that was when I shared the idea onto social media. And I still wasn't even very specific about it. So my very first post, I didn't really give any details to it whatsoever. It was just that I had this big idea. That's all I was presenting to the world was I have this big idea and I'm wondering if I should share it with you. And what I said with that was really the biggest thing of all. And it was that I don't want to mess this up. I don't want to mess this up because I'm getting chills down my back right now just thinking about it. This podcast isn't just a thing for me. This is something that is finally coming together. I don't even know why I'm choking up right now, but this is something that is coming together following years, years of curiosity and perseverance and commitment to a passion that I have felt so deeply within me, but have not been able to identify for so long. And that can be really scary to be going through just something that you feel moved to do and can do nothing but trust in God that you are doing what you need to do. And even though it may not always feel super awesome, the thing about it is that it feels right. And as I say that, that makes me think about the things that we are going to talk about on this show and what the whole point of it is that we are bringing ourselves to a place where we can feel truly good and where we can follow through with those things that do feel right altogether. Because when we do feel good and when we are doing the things that feel truly right for us and where we are moving in this life, I believe that we are better able to impact our own lives and ultimately end up in a place where we feel good about where we're landing, where we can reach the end of our lives and say, I'm proud that I did that. I'm proud of myself for making the effort and for doing the things that scared me, the things that challenged me. And then I also think that when we truly feel good and when we're following through with things that feel in line with our destination, I think that we impact the people around us in a more positive way. So I think it makes sense for me to describe a little bit of my background and why I should even be talking about loving where you live and what does love where you live actually mean? What are we doing here? So, my background is in nutrition. At a very young age, 17 years old, like many high school seniors are figuring out, I was deciding where I want to go to school and what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I was really serious about making that decision. I didn't want to mess it up, didn't want to make the wrong decision. And so I settled on going to school for dietetics. I wanted to be a dietitian, and that's what I felt most passionate about. I can tell you that my earliest memory of caring about what we put into our body will impact our health was as young as 10 years old. So I had recognized that I cared about how we take care of our health. And once again, I didn't want to make a wrong decision. And so I went to school for 5.5 years. I stuck it out. I earned my combined bachelor's and master's of science in dietetics. I went and got my very first job working with people with developmental disabilities as a clinical dietitian. It was a state job, and I did not last there too long. I didn't even make it one whole year because I realized that clinical nutrition is absolutely not my thing. And clinical nutrition wasn't my thing even in school. I will say that I have had fantastic experiences in clinical nutrition, but regardless, that area of nutrition never felt right to me. I feel much more comfortable in cozy environments, places like kitchens. I like being on my feet and I like working one on one with people. And so I actually stumbled upon my next job, which I would have for a few years. And that was with a food service company local to Buffalo, New York, called Personal Touch Food Service. In that position, I worked primarily in schools, and my primary responsibility was helping students to identify healthy options on the menu. And I'm going to tread lightly here. If you are familiar with school lunches, you may have some opinions on the quality of school lunches. Um, I was working primarily in private schools, so there is a lot greater flexibility with school lunches at private schools. And so perhaps because that flexibility was there and versus working in public schools, I may have taken my job a little too seriously. um, just to give a little extra background on that, we had this little program called Alyssa's Better Choice. There was a caricature of me with my hands on my hips, and we used that as the program to help students identify what the healthy option was on the menu. So long story short around that, and the whole point in me saying I think I took my job a little too seriously, I had eventually arrived to a point where I realized that I really wanted to help people one on one. Because when you're trying to communicate to young kids what a healthy option is on the menu, you come to realize that it's not necessarily all about their choice. It's what they might be learning at home. And so that was where I realized that I think it really matters what we know for our own selves and our own health. And how are we teaching our kids how to be healthy or what is health? So, anyway, I wanted to work one on one with people and guide them towards healthy living. And so I couldn't exactly find the job that offered that. And, I had created my own business so that I could create that job for myself, working one on one with people. I did not start my business and stay employed at the same time for very long. I didn't see how that was going to be possible for me. And so, between being an extremely naive business owner and some real serious personal needs, I decided to leave my job at Personal Touch and go, quote, all in on my business. What a crazy new thing that was for me. I mean, looking back, I think that it would have been a lot smarter for me to have kept my job and to build a business. But once again, I mean, there was my naivety there, but there were also personal reasons that led me to that point. In those very early years, learned this interesting notion from Michael Gerber, and it's that I was a service technician having an entrepreneurial seizure. Say that again. Let it sink in, especially for those of you who may be at the start of a new business or thinking about starting a business or maybe even running a business. I was a service technician having an entrepreneurial seizure. So Here I was, a dietitian who wanted to perform a certain job, but I wasn't just a dietitian. I was a business owner. I was also the marketing and design team. I was also the bookkeeper and sometimes the accountant. I don't know, maybe I had hired an accountant, but I was most certainly the bookkeeper for a short time there. Not only was I wearing all of those hats in my business, I was also a mother. My oldest at the time was 4 years old. And you want to know what else happened not too long after I started my business? Oh, the pandemic happened just 9 months after I started my business. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. What a roller coaster ride it was trying to get this little business, this little dream off the ground. Um, I was pretty proud though of what I was working towards. I still had this commitment, this drive to what I was building. Within my program, I had a way of teaching you that health is subjective. I want people to know that you can create your own definition of health so that you can actually honor the things that you believe and eat and live in a way that doesn't feel wrong every single day of your life. I talked about essential nutrients with my clients. We talked about food relationships and meal planning. All of this stuff I firmly believed in. And yet I just couldn't get it to stick. There was honestly something just not clicking for me. Something was missing. And following your dreams, I will say, is a fabulous thing to do. But if you can't get it to just click and run and make money, something is missing, something's not right, something needs to change. And so 3-ish or so years in, I'm sitting there feeling completely defeated and wondering, what do I want to do? At this point, I start thinking I should get a job. But what job should I get? I knew in my heart that I don't want to work as a dietitian somewhere. Makes my stomach turn just a little bit. So if the thing that I went to school for makes my stomach turn just a little bit thinking about going to get a job for it somewhere, I was willing to try almost anything. So I was sitting there pondering, what might I want to do and actually enjoy making money doing? Looking back the few years of my life, I remembered a successful entrepreneur who had indicated some experience in real estate, making it sound like it was definitely a good pathway. And a few years also before this moment happened, I sold a house. I sold my own personal house. And I realized that, hey, after you put in a little time and effort into a home and sell it, there's money there. So, really, those were just the few things that had left me feeling a little bit curious. What might a job in real estate be like? And so, just a few months later, I decide I'm going to take a real estate licensing course. It was completely foreign to me, and that is what I really loved because I love learning new things. I think that it was a benefit to me to dive into something completely new. Just anything that sparked my curiosity. That was what I needed at the time. And so now I am not working as a dietitian. Now I have dissolved my business, Fabulous Nutrition, and now I am a real estate agent with Keller Williams. But let me tell you this, it took me quite a while before I actually had my first sale. I may have gone into real estate thinking that I was going to just be kind of working a job, maybe go to work every day, get paid somewhat regularly. I must have known that there was commission involved and that you don't get paid until you actually close a sale. I'm pretty sure I knew that. But maybe I didn't think that it was going to be as challenging as it can be, especially when you're living in a whole new area and you don't know anybody. Oh, and did I mention that I was studying for my real estate licensing exam when I was pregnant with my youngest now? So I became a licensed real estate agent while I was pregnant. Yeah, before my youngest was born. So there was quite a lot to happen in my life as I started a whole new career. There was even a time when I had kind of jokingly said to a friend, like at the start of all of this, before I had even had my license, what am I not going to sell a house? It was like I jinxed myself saying that because, yes, that is exactly what happened. I did not sell a house for almost 2 years. And now in Keller Williams, there is something called a bold law, and there are, I think, 38 of them. One of them, and I hope I'm not wrong in saying that it's a bold law and not a bold truth, because there are 10 bold truths. But anyway, if I'm right in saying that it is a law, um, it is that no one succeeds alone. And I owe my husband a great deal of thanks for keeping the boat afloat because, yes, as I said, you don't get paid until you get a closing. And so for nearly 2 years, I did not get paid. And that is thanks to my husband that I was able to pursue this new career in real estate and continue to work at it and try to figure it out and make sure that I knew what I was doing and also raise a baby at the same time. Now, my second great thanks goes to my team leader, Vicky Schammel, who had asked me to be a buyer specialist on her team, and she has been the absolute greatest mentor I could ever ask for. And I am just so grateful to be learning from her, who has decades of experience in real estate. And it was thanks to her that I could even have clients to show houses to and sell houses to, and then make money. No shame in making money. We'll probably get to something like that on this show. I also want to give a great amount of thanks to my brokerage, to Keller Williams, that has provided me with so much training and support. Now, you might be an independent contractor as a real estate agent, but within Keller Williams, there is such a great amount of team support. You are surrounded by other agents. You are part of a brokerage that wishes to see you thrive. In fact, a tagline of Keller Williams is where entrepreneurs thrive. So think about that one. The brokerage has provided the training and support to me that has opened up doors, that has spoken to these deeper passions, and it has given me the space and the opportunity to nurture this deeper passion. And so I am tremendously grateful that A, I decided to take a licensing course in real estate, and B, choose Keller Williams. Just a little Keller Williams plug. Hey, if you're thinking about becoming a real estate agent, give me a call. I'll tell you all you need to know about Keller Williams. So I kind of want to take you back to the earlier points of when I did finally start to work with clients, showing houses, and making sales. In this experience, I had come across people who maybe could not quite afford to purchase a house yet, or I'm working with people who would like to live in a particular house here, but can only afford to purchase this house over here. Or people don't want to live in a particular town or a city. It was all of these things that had come to a head. Oh, and let me also mention that my family and I relocated to this area. And while we were really excited about this new change, there were some people that had kind of made fun of us for moving to the location that we did. And then we had also come across a lot of people who spoke negatively about the area. And so it was all of these reasons that were kind of coming to me that were nudging at this desire to help people love where you live because I I don't believe in, and I think I'm getting ahead of myself right now, but I don't believe that it is helpful for us to be speaking negatively about any particular place. But let's get to that. Let's get to that in a minute. I think where we're at this point in the discussion is finally getting to the point of what loving where you live really does mean. To love where you live isn't necessarily a destination as much as it is a variety of practices that we can engage in on a daily basis so that we can be moving towards and settle in a place that we can be relatively at peace with. You know, whether we're completely at peace or at the very least relatively at peace with. Loving where you live is not a scolding. It's not something that maybe you've heard your elders say, be grateful for what you have. It's not that. If you don't love your house, or maybe you don't feel like you love your body, or you don't love particular relationships that you have currently, or you don't love the town or city or state or country that you're living in, that is okay. That is okay. However, I don't want you to mistake that permission for permission to speak badly about any of those places. Now I can finally get to the point in saying that that is another motivator for what has gotten us here today. We relocated to an area that kind of does have a bad rep. There were those people that made fun of us for choosing to move here. And there are people that have lived here for a very long time who do speak negatively about the area. But I'll tell you this, when you have fresh eyes, you don't see what everybody else has been seeing for a long time. And so it is a lot easier to love something when it's brand new to you. It hasn't had the time to settle in and become this thing that you're used to seeing and you're a little bit bored with seeing now, right? Here on this show, I want to inspire you or remind you to think empowering thoughts. My goal is to make this a space where you can come to nurture your growth, maybe to get some new ideas, some inspiration. Because think about it, when you even think things or say things like, this place sucks, or there's nothing to do here, or this place is crazy, boring, or this only happens in this location. And you can apply that whether it's to the town you live in or the city, or even if you have thoughts like that about your body or about certain relationships, your house. Um, I want you to notice, how does stuff like that make you feel? How do thoughts like that make you feel? Do you want to feel that way? And where do you want to go from there? Sometimes the thoughts that we have can be habitual or repetitive, maybe to the point where we don't even notice that they're happening. But I assure you, they are making their impact. They are making their impact. And I want to encourage you to notice more empowering thoughts. And that is what I want to bring here on this show. That is why I got emotional at the start of this, because this isn't all about me and my big idea that I want to pursue. It is also about bringing you quality conversations that are going to, again, inspire you or provide you with some information, just something that you can continue to follow a thread or a trail, continue onward on the path that you are on. It boils down to, how does this place, or, maybe we're talking about a person, how does it affect you? How do you want to respond so that you can feel at peace with how you choose to move forward from there? I know that I already mentioned it before, but I want to say it just one more time, just so that I know for sure that I did say it. But the whole reason why that matters is because when you are feeling good or at peace with where you are, no matter what the circumstances are, you are more likely to affect your life and the lives around you in a more loving way. You end up with a greater sense of trust and more confidence and honestly more peace. Now, I want to talk about what home is by a general definition, not the official definition, but a general definition of home is that it is a safe place. Home should be a place where we feel rejuvenated, where we feel supported, where we can gain some inspiration. I know that where you sleep at night may not feel like home. It may not fit those descriptions to a T. Maybe some of them, maybe none of them. And maybe that applies to, again, all of those other places that I've said before. Maybe it's your body, maybe your city, your town. But let's focus on places that surround us, okay? Our home or the city or towns. I understand what it feels like to have a quote home that doesn't fit that description. I know what it feels like to walk in a door and not feel really satisfied about the door that you're walking through. I know what it feels like to drive through a city and towns that maybe you've seen a little too long and you're tired of seeing what you're seeing and you're ready for something else. I mean, I'll tell you this, when I sold my personal home a few years ago, I had no idea where I was going after that. I did not have another home lined up. Thanks to my parents, I had a place to go, but I did not have another home that I could purchase and call my home. I was entertaining the idea of getting an RV and living on the road because I was building an online business and I want to see the world. So it just sounded like the perfect idea. That's not what happened. Um, but yeah, I was almost willing to try anything. And my point in saying that is that I totally get what it feels like when we don't feel at home where we are. And if that's where you are, if you can relate to that in any way, in any version of that, I can tell you that you are not alone. I've been there. There are times I am there still. And there are plenty of other people who are going through that as well. It took me a long time to realize that the challenges that I was experiencing were not unique to me, and that there are other people out there going through similar situations. And that is why this is so meaningful to me, that I do a great job and deliver an inspiring and empowering show, because I do want you to love where you live. Loving where you live is caring for all of the living spaces that we have. So, what is a living space? I've already kind of mentioned it, I've alluded to it already. It's your body, it's your home, it is the town or city that you live in, it is this world. It's important to note that I do not have all the answers. I do not claim that I am a perfect or enlightened human whatsoever. I am just a deeply curious lady who loves learning, who loves to hear so many sides to one circumstance, one situation. And as we go forward on this show, I want you to know that maybe not everything hits you in the way that you like, or maybe it just doesn't fit. And that's okay. I don't expect everything to fit. I don't expect everything to be exactly the thing that you need. But I'm going to be bringing you a massive variety of topics that will speak to caring for all of these individual living spaces. And when you get that little bit of curiosity on a certain topic, I'm going to encourage that you follow it. And my hope is that that will happen at least once for you. Because I know that if it happens at least once, it will change your life. When you love where you live, you feel good, you feel fulfilled and at peace, and maybe you impact the people around you in a similar way. That. Thank you once again for joining me on this brand new adventure. Who is ready to dive into love where you live? Come on, let's go. I will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today in this part of the world. Creating a home and a life you love is a continuous practice, and I'm so grateful to be on this journey with you. If today's episode gave you a little bit of inspiration or a practical takeaway for your own space, please take a moment to hit that follow button and leave a quick review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Take care of your space, take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time.